to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You, episode 50. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
But that's not going to happen. So instead, we'll travel vicariously by inviting a guest to share their unique travel stories with us.
Today we're talking to Laura. Laura is a physical therapist in the Seattle area. Welcome, Laura.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yay!
Yay! I'm so excited because I see all your fun trips on Facebook. In addition to trips, like fun like hiking excursions that you do. So you are active, and I'm excited to have you on.
Yay!
So do you do a lot of research for, I'm thinking more about like your little hiking trips right now and things. Do you just research a lot? Do you have good resources online, or how do you find your fun activities?
I have a kind of endless supply of hiking books, and I actually follow some Facebook like groups where you look at the different pictures, and I'm like, I want to go there, and then I look at the stats. I have some future hiking trips that I want to go on, like I want to do the Wonderland Trail, like that's my dream. I apply every year. I have not gotten it yet. I haven't won the lottery, but I have not won the privilege of walking 93 miles around Mount Rainier yet. That's what winning the lottery means.
Oh,
I don't know that that's the word I would use. No, that's not true. I do know, and that's not the word I would use.
You did win a lottery of the enchantments, though, right?
I did. Yeah, I've done the enchantments
Oh my
twice,
goodness.
actually. So that was also phenomenally beautiful. Washington State has a lot of beautiful things as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. So the enchantments, I do something where whenever somebody posts a photo on Instagram or Facebook, I will, if I like it, I'll look up where it is, and then I star it on Google Maps. And all of a sudden, I was like, I have 3 stars right in this region. What is this place? Because there are gorgeous photos. And then I saw it was the enchantments, but you have to like win a lottery for it. Also, there's no dogs, and I hike with my dog a lot, and so I was like, but I think I might apply for it next year because I really want to do that. So
You really should.
Yeah.
And it's good there's no dogs because there's a lot of mountain goats, and they do chase you sometimes.
The goats chase
Yep,
you?
I got chased by a goat
oh boy,
in the enchantments.
Like, if you don't run away, what does the goat do?
I mean, you're not really supposed to run away. Like, I kind of gathered with some people, and we scared it away. We threw rocks at it and kind of
Oh my
shoot it
goodness.
away. And this guy with some hiking poles started clanking them together and going, rah, rah. It was very very
Okay.
Gandalf-like. You shall not pass.
Did you have a big like staff too? Because that would be very cool.
That would have been awesome. But I was willing to jump in the lake up to my neck because I'm like, the goats are short. They can't gore me to death if I'm in a lake. But he thankfully ran off. So
I guess Gracie wouldn't withstand that
yeah.
very well.
In
so
October,
it's
you have to be
probably
careful because the goats it's the mating season for the goats. So they're a little more
Oh.
aggressive. So you got to be careful. So it's good that Gracie probably shouldn't go to the enchantments.
good. She wouldn't really appreciate the beauty of those lakes either. So
It's
you
true.
know, that's fine. Yeah. Oh man, how many countries have you been to, Laura?
That is a good question. I actually don't know if I have a full count. Let's see. Went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At least 8 that are coming to mind right off the bat. Maybe 10,
Cool.
8 to 10.
Nice. Were those in your adult years or
Uh,
child or both?
Mostly adult years, with the exception of Mexico.
Nice. All right. So, Laura, we've got 3 questions that we like to ask all of our guests. So the first question is, why do you travel?
That's a good question. I travel
We thought so.
because I like adventure. I like new experiences. I like looking through things through a different perspective. I don't like being bored, so I like experiencing new things and just kind of seeing. And it's like the world is a big place and it's not. And it's like I want to see the world. And every time I go into a new place, I learn something new and realize that, where I live isn't the only way of living. So it's like I gain something valuable and I always feel like I get to go on an adventure. So that's why I travel.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So what type of traveler are you?
What type of traveler? What kind of types are there?
It's intentionally vague for you to interpret this question how you would like. You tell us what types there are.
I mean, I guess I've been told I am a pack in as much as you can on a trip. So I'm not like a sit on the beach type of traveler. I'm like I'll do that if I have to, but I want.
If you have to. Someone forces you to sit on the beach.
Yeah, I will. I'm the person that will put in 50,000 steps in a day when I travel, and I will. I usually lose weight on a trip because I try to pack in as much activity as possible because I don't know when I'm going to go back. So I try to. So I like to see as much as I can. I almost need a vacation from my vacation when I'm back. So maybe that's the kind of traveler I am. And then. Yeah, I like the adventure part in experiencing the nature and the outdoorsy part of traveling. But I also I don't mind going to some of the museums and kind of the historical part, especially when you're like in Europe or a place like that. But I will say I'll sometimes get bored with seeing too many arrowheads. There's only so many you can see.
Okay.
But I usually like to run in every country I go to and go on a hike in every country I go to. That's
cool.
So, but then also see something kind of like cultural.
So when you say you'd like to go on a hike or in a run, do you look that up ahead of time before you go and plan that out? Or is that something that you talk to people once you get there?
Earlier in my traveling, probably I asked for suggestions. Now I do a lot more pre-planning. But it just depends on the trip and if traveling solo or if I'm traveling with a group. If I go with a group, I might need to kind of gain a consensus. And if it's someone who else is doing more of the leading, they might choose it. But if I'm kind of choosing, then I'll definitely pre-plan.
So what level of hike? It sounds like if you're wanting to do like Mount Rainier, this is more like what I would put into the backpacking category as opposed to the hiking category. But different people define those differently. So like what type of hiking do you do internationally? And then the second question, how do you pack for that?
All of the above. So I've done all of the above. So like Ireland, you've been to Ireland. So it doesn't really have like mountains. It's more like rolling hills.
Sure.
So that was more like a bed and breakfast experience. And they like move your luggage to each location, and then I hiked to each location.
Cool.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
I want to do that.
Yeah, and that was like semi backpacking. But since I was solo, you don't want to like. I didn't necessarily want to backpack on my own. I would have for places like New Zealand and Switzerland. I would totally do traditional backpacking, but I know they also do hut to hut, where you can do hikes from one hut to the next one. I just did a lot of day hiking generally. In Austria, I did like a really epic hard hike that just kind of went straight up. It was probably like the equivalent of a Mount Si type of hike where it's like 4,000 foot elevation gain. But in Switzerland, I think I just let the people we were staying with pick a hike, and it was kind of near the Alps, and it was quite lovely. I think it was called the Schilthorn. I think that's what it was called.
I think I've heard of that actually. That sounds like a real thing.
Either that or
That's awesome.
Either that or it was Stockholm, but that's a disorder, so I don't.
Oh well, and it's the
It is a
capital of
location.
Sweden.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like That one was a way back, so I really don't remember what it was called.
You are so in the medical field that you think of Stockholm as a disorder as opposed to a location.
That's usually where my brain goes. All the acronyms are medical terminology.
That's so funny. So here's what we need to do is we need to start pairing up our past guests on who would be good travel buddies with each other based on how they answer these questions. Because like Laura, we just had on this guest, Alex, and he described a really similar thing of like, I need a vacation from my vacation. I want to pack as much in because I never know if I'm going to be back there, and like wanting adventure and different things like that. And so I feel like we need to start like pairing, like, you know, just
You
like
guys
if
would travel
needs
well together.
Yeah, if anyone needs a travel buddy, like we know some people.
It's a real thing. It's like you have to like almost know you're going to be travel compatible. That's a
Yeah.
real thing.
And that's hard to tell sometimes.
Until you're in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Just to go back then, so when you are doing this hiking / backpacking / more effort than I generally want to put out, what all do you bring with you? Like if you're traveling, you know, you're flying somewhere else, like do you always check a bag because you're bringing enough gear? Do you bring less gear than if you were hiking nearby? Like how does that work? Because that's an extra layer of stuff to bring with you that not everybody always thinks about.
Sure. When I was in New Zealand, I actually packed a lot of camping gear because I camped along the way, and I just put that in my carry-on. Actually, I checked that baggage. I usually travel as light as I can, and I'm also a cheap traveler, so it depends on how much I have to pay to check a bag. When I went to Burma, we didn't do as much hiking, but I did do a hike. So that I actually packed a bag as full as I could, but brought a lot of like extra stuff that I was going to leave there, and then I filled stuff up that I brought back. So I usually just bring one suitcase and like a carry-on. Honestly, I think New Zealand I maybe was the first time I maxed out my luggage.
Okay.
But New Zealand Air is good.
Have you done a lot of trips? Have you done a lot of trips solo?
I did one big one solo.
Okay. How was that?
It was amazing. It was completely
Really?
empowering. Yep. I would do it again. It was just like, it was a little scary at first, but then once I did it, I'm like, I totally can do this. And it's amazing. You talk to more people, you meet more people, you kind of experience more of the culture, because you just kind of hang with the locals a little bit. And it's just, and then people always make it sound like you're going to get murdered, especially being a like single woman. But the truth is, most people aren't going to murder you. So, and it's really okay.
You can confidently say most people aren't going to murder you.
You can never say all.
Is that one of the lessons that you learned while you were traveling? Is that most people won't murder you?
Yeah, I think that is very reasonable. Okay, one final question, and then we will dive into your travel story. What is your number one travel tip?
My number one travel tip. Pre-plan. It's kind of like my backpacking rule. You always want to plan ahead. However, you always have to be flexible and kind of open to like change the plan.
What does that look like for you?
Well,
I agree with that, but I'm curious, like, what is that? How does that look in action?
You need like kind of an outline, because some things you have to book ahead, like, or you'll never get to do them. And so you kind of have to kind of base it off of that. But if you book every single second that you're there, if you get a tip, you won't have time to do it. So when you get there, you do want to ask people, what should I do? What would you do? What's your number one suggestion? Because that might be better than what you read in a book here. But some of the tourist stuff, some people are like, don't do that. It's a tourist trap. Sometimes the tourist stuff is cool. So sometimes you just have to do that too.
Sometimes there's a reason things are popular.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. So what trip are you going to tell us about today, Laura?
I'm going to talk about my trip to Burma, which is also known as Myanmar. So for those who don't know, and it borders Thailand and India, actually.
That was going to be my first question, is I would not be able to find it on a map.
Southeast Asia.
And so does it have both names, Burma and Myanmar, or is it really one, but the other one's like an old name that's just kind of hanging on?
I think it's officially Myanmar. I think the U.S. government might actually call it Burma. But they are a military dictatorship, so I think they were they used to be a democracy, and so it's like the guys, as my friend described it, the guys with the guns changed the name, so she prefers Burma, but I think most people do call it Myanmar.
Interesting. So, of all the places you choose to go, you picked a military dictatorship?
Well, it really wasn't, that didn't really come up too much when I was there. One of my best friends is actually from Burma, and I crashed her family trip, is really what happened.
Okay.
So it's not as scary as it sounds. So I went with a lot of people that I trusted, and they knew kind of where to go, and it really never felt dangerous. So
Awesome.
Was she going to visit family, or were all of them living in the States and going back home, or what was that like?
She was visiting family, and then her family that lives here also went over. So
Very cool.
So it was like a big family trip. So I was like the adopted
Laura.
family and me. I was the adopted family member on the trip.
That's a cool way to experience a country.
Yes, absolutely. It was
That's awesome.
fantastic.
What did getting there look like?
Oh, that was a lot of traveling. Let's see. I want to say we were traveling for a solid 24 hours is what it felt like. We got a direct flight to Korea, so to Seoul, Korea, and then we had quite the layover there. And then it was actually quite a long flight from Korea to Burma itself. I think it was like another 8 hours. It was like one was like 13 hours and the other one was like 8. With a kind of long layover.
It is long. I need to look at it on a map now.
Yeah.
I'm already looking.
When I got there, I don't think I had slept very much because the flight over, there was a baby and a dog that were sitting next to us.
Oh
no.
So I don't remember sleeping very much, and I think that was the closest, like the very first time I was like, wow, I really am jet lagged. But we got there, and they're a very welcoming, inviting culture. We get there, and the first thing that they want to do is feed you. So you will never go hungry when you kind of go visit someone in Burma, like, because they're like a very welcoming culture, and they will feed you.
And what do they feed you?
Yeah.
What's the food?
Yeah, it's a lot of like,
of course.
kind of oil, like oil-based food, a lot of meat that's really greasy and like oily, but with a lot of flavor. And they have some like kind of like tea leaf salad sometimes, so it has like some nuts and like tea leaves, and you kind of eat that. There are some things I don't know what I ate. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure.
But it's eaten with a lot of rice, so it's like a lot of rice and then a lot of like really strongly flavored meat and vegetable type dishes. I think I ate goat at one point. I'm pretty sure I ate pig intestines. There's seafood, a lot of seafood. So there's a lot.
That would make sense. It looks like there's a lot of the country that borders the water.
Absolutely.
So there you go. Very cool. So what did you guys do?
All sorts of things. So it was kind of it was around Christmas time. So it was it was their kind of Christmas celebration for their family. My friend's older sister was kind of hosting that, but they also had a local church there that just basically hosted Christmas. But then we took off for like a week and a half and went on a road trip on a bus. Like her sister rented a bus, and we went on these like dirt bumpy roads.
What?
Yep.
Whoa.
Went on a road trip and visited more of Burma. So her sister's in Yangon, so it's kind of like the biggest city there. So that was their buildings are a lot. They're not very. They don't really care about so much the prettiness of it. It's a lot more functional. It is a developing country. Some of the older buildings are a little bit. They're like kind of changing into a more modern style, but they kind of have some of the old style too. So that we spent like at least a week there, and then we went on our road trip. So we did. Funny thing is, I said I don't really spend that much time on the beach, but we did spend 3 days at the beach but it was at the Bay of Bengal, and the water was very swimmable. So
cool.
That was pretty cool. And then we went to Bagan, which was a lot more like old style ancient city. So you had a lot of the old pagodas, and then like a lot of kind of the architecture that kind of dated back long, long ago.
Wow.
So that was pretty epic. And I did go on a hike. So Mount Popoi. It's like an extinct volcano, and we had to hire a guide actually because we had no idea where the trails went and nothing's marked. And he hiked in sandals and pretty much like ran up the mountain, and we're just like, okay,
'cause that's just like his life,
Yep.
so he knows what's up.
Yep. And we actually had to under the table tip him too, because I think the hotel would have taken all the money because they charged us for the guide, but he didn't really see much of it. So we tipped him, and told him not to give it to the money. And then we also went to this city that was on stilts. So it was like all water.
Wait, an entire city?
Yeah, the city was like, I am like completely blanking on the name, but it was like this, all these buildings were on stilts. And then we took this like little mini like wooden boat, and it had a motor, and it was like a 2 or 3 hour boat ride. And we came finally onto to land, and we visited this like little village, that was run by a monk. And he basically did like schooling for all these children, because all nearby, there was no schools nearby. And so he did all the schooling. So the kids would live there during the year, because there really wasn't schools nearby. And that was like one of my favorite parts. That there was some funding for that school, because my friend did a Rotary Club, and they did a lot of funding for the school. So she wanted to go visit the school. So we just I kind of went with the flow on this trip, because I had no idea what was going on most of the time. And we just, she's like, we're going to take this boat and go to this village. I'm like, sweet. That's awesome. And since I didn't speak any of the language, I got volunteered for a lot of things.
Oh, like what?
So like, she's like, Laura's now going to show everybody exercises that will help their back. She's a physical therapist. She's a doctor. She can show you. So it's interesting because Buddhist monks it's not like appropriate to touch them. So I wasn't really going to do that anyways, but I was just started showing them chin tucks and like cobra pose. And he's like, wow, this is really helping my neck. So he fed us.
And you're like, yeah, I've studied that.
Yep. And again, they greeted us and they fed us, and they're vegetarian. I think the monks were vegetarian, but it was funny. They fed us, and there's all these appetizers, and I thought that was our meal. So I ate a lot of food because that's the polite thing to do, is eat. And then they brought out the real meal after I'd stuffed my face.
Oh no.
And my friend's husband did the same thing.
Really?
Yep.
Boy.
And they were laughing because they were like, you thought that was the meal? I'm like, I didn't know. So then I had to eat more after that.
Oh darn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cheryl's bummed.
I mean, it was delicious. And then my friend volunteered me to sing in their like little temple, and we sang a Christmas song. So I'm like, I feel like I'm the only person who sang a Christian Christmas song in a Buddhist temple in like the middle of nowhere in Burma with my friend.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. What did you sing?
I don't even remember. We did sing an old gospel choir song. I know that, and then we sang a straight up Christmas song. So, like I said, I got volunteered to do all sorts of things, and I'm like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing now. So that one was cool though, because they were very grateful, and they were very nice. And how often do you get to take a little boat ride? We also got stuck. The boat got stuck part of the way over.
Stuck how?
There's like lily pads everywhere, and then it just stopped moving for a while. And since I didn't speak the language, I'm like, well, I'm sure they'll figure it out, hopefully. And they did.
So the city that you said that's all on stilts. Mm-hmm. So it's just because it's in the water.
Uh-huh.
And so you have to take a boat in between each building.
Yep. And we've got to go shopping there afterwards. So it's like not just a few houses. This is like a full city. Yeah, it's pretty much like a city. And then,
I'm trying to Google it and not finding it yet. And now I want to know where it is. Was it a lake or on the ocean?
It was not, that part was not the ocean.
Okay.
I don't know if it was actually, it was huge. Inley Lake, I think, is that what it was called?
Oh, I just found that on Wikipedia. There we go. Inlay Lake. I want to see this place.
This trip was in 2013, so I'm like, okay, remembering some of the specific details. Yeah. And we did, there is like a city that's like more on land too, but there is like a straight up part where that's all on stilts, and they had little shops you can, I think there's a place where there's a bunch of cats too that I missed out on because we were seeing them, the other place at the school. But the other part of the family actually went and hung out with some cats at one point.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is definitely inland then. It's like kind of in the middle of the country.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like. Tell me about yourself, Inlay Lake.
Wait, am I seeing like big giant? Oh, I think I might see the picture of this temple. Was it a big temple?
It was fairly large. They also have,
yeah, I'm seeing a big temple with a bunch of boats pulled up to it.
Yeah,
It's like on the water.
They also have a lot of they have a lot of temples because they are primarily Buddhist, so there are a lot of temples. And there's a lot
This
of
is like the Venice of Burma then.
yeah, it kind of
Seems
is.
like it.
Yeah, that is kind of like it.
Except it doesn't look like there's hardly any actual roads.
Yeah, and
Like even like walking roads between buildings.
yeah, there's really not in Inley Lake as much.
Wow.
Wow.
That's so interesting.
That was definitely one of my favorite parts was Inley Lake. Mount Popois and then like Inley Lake were definitely kind of up there. Because, I mean, how often do you get to go to a place like that?
Yeah, that's so unique.
Mm-hmm.
That's very cool. What did the terrain of other parts of the country that you went to look like?
So it's pretty tropical. So you have like a lot of tropical fruits. When we were kind of like outside of Rangoon, it looked kind of tropical too. There's like a lot of greenery and stuff too. And we were there. They kind of have like rainy season and dry season. And I think we were in like the best season where it wasn't too hot and it wasn't rainy. So
What time of year was that?
It was December. It was like around Christmas.
Okay. So, yeah, you said it was near Christmas.
Yeah, it was like legit Christmas time.
Nice.
We came back Christmas Eve, so that.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was, but it was like probably 85 degrees. I want to say.
Nice. I'm into that.
I think that's about, if I had to guess. When we were at the Bay of Bengal, it was hotter during the day because we didn't go out in the sun. We kind of went swimming in the evening, generally. So.
And was it pretty humid too?
It was fairly humid. Yeah, it was fairly humid. I don't think it was as bad as the South, but it was humid. So it definitely had that tropical feel.
And when you say the South, you mean the South in
in
the
United States. Yeah.
Yeah. Just clarifying.
The northern part of Burma, apparently it can get really cold, but we didn't go up as far as that. And in the winter, I guess it can get, like, I think there is like ice and maybe occasionally traces of snow is what I heard. But,
Okay.
but not anywhere where I was, for sure. And it's like a good 20, it's a good time zone ahead, like a huge time zone difference. I think it's like a
good time zone.
Whatever you call it. It's like, I think it's well over 24 hours different.
Well, I would get, because it looks like, because it's east of India, so it's probably, I mean, it's not going to be more than 24 hours technically, because you can only have 24 hours all the way around.
It's true.
But it would be like a day ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It would be more than 12 hours.
Yeah.
Probably, right? Like maybe like 14 hours, something like that, maybe.
It was enough that it like really throws you off when you come home.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
13 hours and 30 minutes ahead of Seattle. How is
Wait,
that
what?
possible? Google, what are you doing?
That's not true. That can't be true.
Wait, seriously, what website is this from? This says that when it's 8:44 in Seattle, it's 10:14 a.m. in Burma. How is that possible? Is this
It
website
does.
just
It
messed
says
up?
GMT plus 6 hours and 30 minutes.
I didn't
Huh.
know that was a thing.
I didn't know that was a thing either. I just knew it was well different enough that I was very tired when I came home.
Is it really
Wow.
a thing? I'm not sure that that's really a thing.
So pretty much, I mean, either way, that's like very, very jet lagged then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. New Zealand was easier to
Wow.
recover from because it was like almost exactly a day ahead. It was just 3 hours off. So that was like just coming back from the East Coast. But Burma was like completely opposite. But that was,
Wow.
but yeah, no,
Yeah.
I would say Inle Lake was, if you had to go, I'm like, that was worth stopping in. But we ended our road
That's
trip in
very
Bagan, which was kind of more that ancient city.
Mm-hmm.
And that was,
What was that like?
that was, I mean, it just had kind of what you'd kind of experience when it just like a lot of ancient ruin type of stuff. Like the pagodas were a lot less modern looking. They looked a lot more kind of ancient. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought it was a lot prettier. It wasn't like trying to be Western. It was like really kind of keeping it with its culture. And Burma in general didn't try to, like Aung San Suu Kyi, I really encourages the Burmese people to like keep their culture, and they've dressed very traditionally there, because a lot of countries try to kind of adopt that Westernization a little bit, but there is kind of that encouragement to kind of keep some of the culture. So a lot of people wear their sarongs still, and dress very traditionally. And I was expected to dress traditionally for a lot of things. When I saw the really big famous kind of temple, I think they asked me to kind of wear traditional.
So were you able to borrow things from the people that you were staying with, or did you have to buy things, or what was that like?
Both, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
and honestly, the dollar's a lot stronger, so it was pretty cheap, and there was some bartering you could do there too, but it didn't cost a lot to buy things as much. So
Are there markets there, or things like that you went to?
yes, yeah.
What's that like?
Yeah, it was definitely a barter system. I probably stood out pretty, like when I didn't talk and if I dressed traditionally, they thought I was Burmese. But as soon as I opened my mouth, it was pretty obvious that I was an American. So there were foreigners' fees sometimes I had to pay, but when you barter and they know you're American, they're not going to give you as good of a price. But at the same time, I'm like, I feel bad bartering down too low because I also know that the country doesn't necessarily have a ton of money. So I didn't want to necessarily be like overly cheap, but it was kind of fun to like be like, how about this amount? And they're like, well, how about this amount? But usually my friend's family would be like, oh, you want to get that in this part of the country because that's where this part of the country is known for jade, and this part of the country is known for their teapots. So you should wait until we get there. So they gave me little tips.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
That's really cool. Are you a souvenirs person?
yeah, that was probably the country I came back with the most souvenirs. I had to actually put the expanders on my suitcase on the way home. So, yeah, I mean, I brought back almost everything that I could. Like, I brought back, like, a tea set. I brought back some paintings. I like, a lot of, like, the handmade stuff. Like, I brought back some, like, table runners that were, like, kind of handmade. I mean, it was really cool. Like, they had like, everything they make there is, like, it's funny. It's, like, all the stuff that, like, all the hipster people want here. And they just, that's just normal for them. Like, they have skinny chickens running around. And it's, like, the concept of free range is, like, not foreign to them. It's, like, that's just what they do. They don't have, like, you go to the local market for the food, too. You just go and buy it that day. And you kind of bring it back.
Cool.
So it's not.
Is that pretty standard for people to shop, like, for their daily food?
Yep.
That's really
And
cool.
they have the local market. So I did go once out by myself to the local market and bought stuff and came back. So that was kind of fun. Yep.
That's cool. Did you speak English, or did you attempt their language, or what was that like?
I only learned a few phrases. Most of the time I was with someone who spoke the language. Usually I could you can learn to kind of like communicate with hand motions,
Gestures.
gestures. Some people would know English, some people wouldn't know it at all. So I think the touristy areas are going to have a little bit more knowledge on English. I definitely had, I'm sure I had some faux pas at times. But this one, I don't know, it's not necessarily being American. It was just being just a big plain mistake. But my friend's niece and I definitely got really sick one day. We got food poisoning. And so we were in Bagan and we were looking at the sunset and we were not feeling well. So they said, why don't you just go back to the car? And I took my friend's niece. I was the responsible adult, and we go back to the car. And then we're just sitting there waiting. And then this random guy comes up and he's like, why are you in my car? And we had gotten in the wrong car that was right next to the other car.
Oh, no.
So I was just sitting in some random guy's car with my friend's niece. And then we got out really fast. And we're like, I'm sorry.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's weird.
So that's something that happened, too. Another experience most people can say is maybe I haven't had.
Oh, my goodness. That's intense.
Okay, so I'm going to jump back to an old topic because I was just too curious. Apparently,
You were looking at time zones, weren't you?
I have been looking at time zones. Apparently, yes, it is off by 6.5 hours. India is also off by a half-hour increment. And apparently there are even some time zones that are off by 45 minutes instead of an hour.
Interesting.
45 minutes? What are they doing?
I don't know. So there's a whole host of reasons. I saw the most stuff about India. I'm having trouble finding the specifics as to why for Burma, but I wonder if it's related to India since they are bordered with each other. So anyway, it's 6.5 hours. So there you go.
There we go.
Wow.
We've learned
Because I know
something.
you were all dying to know that.
I actually, no,
Yeah.
I still learn things, even coming back.
So how long ago had your friend moved to the States?
Oh, she moved in high school. So, I mean, she's actually been here 18 years now. So.
But she also then had like a memorable part of her life living in Burma.
Yes, absolutely. I actually stayed in her old bedroom. So when I was there. So yeah, that was like, she definitely has the experience of living here, but definitely had an experience living there. So
That's so interesting. And had she visited in the meantime before this trip?
Yes. But it was her first time bringing her husband. So they had just been married a year at that time.
That's cool.
So we experienced.
What was that like for her to go back there, like back home, kind of?
I think it was fun because because they always told me that I should go, and and then obviously she wanted to show off her new husband. So, and her family wanted to see him as well. So that was I think that was really cool for her to kind of go back as an adult and then kind of share the new part of her life with her family. And a lot of her extended family was there. And like people it's just kind of not one of those time oriented cultures. It's just one of those cultures that they're like, yeah, come on. And like, you're here. I'm going to take the day off from work. let me tell my boss I'll come and join you. Or they'll just show up at your house and they'll just eat with you. Or random people would cook for us and random people would just bring us gifts when we were leaving. So, I mean, they're just that kind of culture. So they're just really welcoming and really people-oriented. And so that, I think I definitely experienced that, even though I didn't know what was going on half the time. But they also really, I think she liked that she got to see like one of her old nannies that helped raise her. And just kind of some people she hadn't seen in years. So I think that was really cool.
That is cool.
That's awesome.
Her dad has like a little church there, and it's actually like right there with right at their house too. So people come and they pray like every morning at the church, and it was really cool because they had me go to their church service, and it was funny because they were kind of introducing us, and then they kind of said my brother had actually been in the hospital a year before then, and then they were like. They were like, oh, by the way, we've been praying for your brother. And then they kind of like half their church raised their hand and said, yeah, we've all been praying for your brother like every day.
That's cool.
And I was like, wow, like I feel like people in America don't do that and they see me every day. And here's these complete strangers that have been praying for my brother every day. So yeah, that was pretty awesome. So that's the kind of like people-oriented culture that they are. So that was kind of like, wow. We could be better people over here.
That's really inspiring. That's very cool.
Yeah, definitely. They have a lot of like connections with the local orphanages. So we went and visited a local orphanage. We also visited like a local juvenile detention center, and threw them a Christmas party.
Oh, that's cool.
There was Asian Santa. That's always fun. And then, and that was also when I got volunteered for something. I didn't know that was going to happen. And, because that's just who my friend is. She's like, Laura is now going to demonstrate exercises. I'm like, a bunch of like middle school boys don't want me to teach them exercises right now at their Christmas party.
Or they do.
But we did. Yeah, I showed them planks. I showed them chin tucks and cobras. I'm like, well, let's keep it simple. So
okay, so I know this technically isn't travel, but I know what a plank is. I can imagine what a chin tuck is, but I have no idea what a cobra is.
Cobra is like reverse sitting posture. So you're laying on your belly, you press up, and then like you kind of extend your back, and you kind of keep your pelvis kind of to the ground, and you lock out your elbows.
Like with your arms in front of you?
Yep.
Oh, I see pictures of that all the time.
Yeah, it's similar to like an upward dog. Yep. Yoga pose.
That doesn't help me at all. Yeah, I don't really know yoga. My exposure to yoga came from the Wii Fit.
Nice.
If you remember when that was a thing.
Yep.
How did the Wii Fit know if you were doing yoga correctly? Was there a bodysuit?
So the Wii Fit was actually a physical board that you would like stand on or put your like arms on or whatever.
Okay.
And so it had like weight sensors. And so it was based on how you were balanced. But it didn't know that your form was quite right. But it was more than just like holding something in your hand.
Okay.
Well, sometimes
you
it
just
depended on
tell
what it
the
was.
Wii like, I'm doing it. No, I did it. I did a good job. So give me the points.
No, it was a little more complicated than that. And is a
Like
chin
in
tuck
Friends.
literally just tucking your chin like to your chest?
Not to your chest. It's going straight back. So it's like kind of a retraction. So it's like making a double chin a little bit. So it's like you're sitting up nice and tall.
Oh, so it's real
Yep.
cute.
And then you almost
I
give
see.
yourself
Like
a little.
those
Yep,
ugly faces
exactly.
people take
Yep.
pictures
It's
of.
the most
Oh, Ryan, you look
attractive exercise you can do in
Yeah.
public.
That sounds real great. And why is that a good thing to do?
Because people have turtlenecks. They like sit on their computer or they read their book and they look down and they put their head forward. And then they have like that old lady, old man posture.
Oh, like where you get that like little bump?
Yeah.
Like just below your neck, like in your shoulders?
And then you have like the turtleneck that's kind of protruded forward. And so it's reversing that posture. So it puts the lower part of your neck in extension and the upper part of your neck in flexion. And it kind of like reverses what a lot of people do all day long. And even in Burma, I noticed they sat on the floor and they kind of looked down and read all day long. And so they still had turtlenecks, even though they maybe weren't on computers as much as we are over here.
So that's what it's called. It's called a turtleneck.
I don't know if that's the official name. I think that's just what I call it. It's called cervical protraction, but turtleneck is more layman's term. So
Okay.
so that
Nice.
so yes, I did. That is also something. I went to a juvenile detention center and taught chin tucks and cobra and planks.
There you go.
And how did they respond to that?
They thought it was funny. There was a lot of laughing. I had a few of the guys like come up and like do it, and then a few of them are like, "You're doing it wrong," telling their friends, "You're doing it wrong."
That's funny.
But
Oh man. Well, Laura, thank you so much for sharing
Absolutely.
about this trip. It sounds amazing. We have a couple follow-up questions about this trip. So our first one is based on the title of our show, Take Me With You. And if you could take us with you to just one thing on this trip, what would it be and why?
that's a good question. Wow, I think the highlight was Inlay Lake. So kind of taking the boat ride to that little village and meeting kind of that Buddhist monk who my friend nicknamed him Pon Pon. And it was just like a rich experience. You got to meet all these children and I think that would be a great place to like volunteer, like, cause everyone has skills, right? So it's like, that would be like, if you could do kind of like one of those like mission types trips, you could kind of spend some time with the kids and like do something there. Like whether you have a medical background, teaching background, or just playing games, I think that would be kind of a really good experience because they always love help there. So I think that's where I would take both of you.
I love it. I think we will accept your offer.
Yep, I definitely accept it. Yep.
And Laura, what's your next trip?
What's my next trip? That's a good question. I've been dreaming about it because I've taken a couple years off. I had to do adulting.
Oh, boo.
Like
house
buying
and
a
redid your
condo
kitchen.
and like remodeling my bathroom, boring stuff like that.
Yeah.
That I had PTSD from that. But now it's,
I hear you on that one.
it's like no more bathroom remodels. No more bathroom floods. But I think I'm going to do. I think I'm going to do Iceland.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, my gosh. And as a hiker?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You definitely have to do Iceland.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm debating whether I want to shoot for the Northern Lights, but I think I just want to start with the hiking portion. Because I think winter.
They're not mutually exclusive.
No, they're not. They're not.
Like if you went in like April or maybe early May or whatever 6 months away from that is, what would it be, like September, October, or something like that?
It's true. It's true. And that'd be great hiking weather. So, Yep.
Yay. And then you will come back and you will tell us about your trip and we will love it.
Exactly.
And do you have any travel questions for us?
Well, then what kind of traveler are you? Turn the same question around.
Oh, there you go. Ryan?
So both Cheryl and I answered this in our first and second episodes, but I think I'm going to answer it a little bit differently now than the first time, just based on how many people we've talked to at this point and just thinking more about how we travel and being all, metacognitive and all that sort of stuff. And I think in general, I am I don't know how to put it in the right form of speech, but most of the time when I travel with students. So I think if I was going to describe the type of traveler I am, that's usually the type of traveler I am. Not necessarily because that is the top way that I would always want to, but that is a way that I have found I can do travel. And I do enjoy traveling with students most of the time. So
That's fair.
Cheryl?
Yeah, I feel like probably my philosophy's changed a little bit since we started this podcast, and that I am feeling a little more open to, I don't know, I feel like less of a planner now with travel than I was before. Maybe still the same level of research, but less planning. Because I just I personally have experienced, and then just through hearing other stories have seen that just like being open to what the trip has for you, and not being so nailed into every single plan that there's not like an opportunity to just kind of jump on something or be spontaneous.
So when you say less planned, to me what you're describing sounds kind of like less scheduled, perhaps.
Yeah, that's better, because I would say I still like to know how I'm getting places and where I'm sleeping.
Yes.
Those are like the key things. I still don't want to miss out on something. If I really want to see something, I don't want to miss out on like whatever that is, buying the tickets ahead of time or knowing what day it's open or something like that. But I think I don't want to, have as much of like commitments on trips anymore. And so maybe it's, some people use the phrase planned spontaneity, and I don't know if I always agree with the usage of that phrase necessarily. And I myself am not always a terribly spontaneous person, but in moments of spontaneity in life, I really enjoy it. And so I think there is something to like the structured spontaneity, something like that. I don't know. Using a phrase that I resent, I guess. But yeah.
Sure.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Good question, Laura. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, so we're going to move on to the last segment of this week's podcast called Wish You Were Here. So during this segment, each of the three of us is going to highlight a travel attraction from the different places that we've been. You can kind of think of it like a little snapshot on a postcard that you would see, and it said, hey, I wish you were here. This was super cool. And so we're just each going to talk a little bit about that cool thing so that maybe those of you who are listening might get a chance to see these things at one point. So Laura, what is your wish you were here?
I wish I was I wish I was in Mordor in New Zealand.
Mordor?
Mount Narangaho. That's where like they filmed Mordor. That was a, or maybe it was, yeah, and that was a great hike. 12 miles one way. Yes.
So you could say that you actually, was that like you hiked Mount Doom? Is that basically what you did?
I didn't actually like scale Mount Doom, but I went right past it and then like kind of went right around it. And yeah, and it was like, the first part looked very desolate, and it kind of felt like walking on Mars because it just had kind of that lava rock and everything. And it was an active volcano, so it smelled sulfuric.
Nice.
And it had the lakes that were steaming.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And it legit smelled like farts. So it was.
Oh, man, you got that real fart smell.
Yeah.
So is that on the North Island or the South Island?
That's on the North Island.
Okay. I have to add that to my list whenever I make it to New Zealand.
Oh, man.
I don't really want to walk for 12 miles.
It's worth it. An 80-year-old and a 6-year-old did it.
I mean, I could
Brian.
do it. I just don't know that I want to.
Don't
But
you want to smell those farts?
you know what? If it's sulfur, if that's the smell that you're describing,
Yep.
I'm weird and I actually like the smell of sulfur.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think it smells bad. Like a lot of people think it smells like rotten eggs or like farts or whatever. And yes, some farts can be sulfuric and those can be difficult. But it's not. But that's like your extreme fart smell.
That is
that's
true.
not your standard smell, right?
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you get used
Cheryl,
to
you're
it.
not agreeing on this one.
I mean, I think there's a piece of me that likes and also hates that sulfur smell all at once. I have this face wash that my dermatologist gave me that has some sulfur in it, and she was like, heads up, it smells gross. And I like, it's one of those like, this smells good and also it smells awful. So I kind of feel both things maybe. So,
Okay.
yes. But, Laura, did you bring a ring to destroy?
Just a figurative one. I pretended like I did in my head. I mean, I don't think I'm Frodo though, so I don't think I would.
Did
be
you
Frodo.
or did you not see Gollum while you were there?
You know, there's some people that look like Gollum. So
How about giant flying eagles?
no, there are no eagles. I think the eagles are a lie. But I did pretend like every time I was in New Zealand, I pretended that I was in Lord of the Rings. But that's
Middle Earth.
That's
Yep.
that's the truth. Every time I hike.
Oh, no matter where, no matter what country you're in, if you're hiking, you're in the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, or part of the Von Trapp family.
Oh, yep. Okay. Wow, good French horn.
Thank you. I've been working on it.
Oh, okay, so
entirely
Cheryl,
a lie.
what's your wish you were here?
My wish you were here this week is St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, which is technically, I was going to say in Rome, and it is in Rome, and also it's not in Rome at the same time. So, it's very cool. First of all, it's kind of fun bonus points to be like, ha, just got another country.
I was going to say,
Check.
do you count that as another country? And
Actually, I haven't
is it
counted
separate
it.
in the Ben app?
It is separate in the Ben app.
Okay.
I have not counted it as another country, but I'm thinking maybe I should start.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So I climbed the dome with my sister, and I would
Inside
say
or
that
outside?
everybody should do that. Well, it's It's inside, but you actually climb up like the curve of the dome.
Okay.
But so there's a staircase that goes to the base of the dome, so that's like a number of stairs to start with. And then after that, there's a staircase that is like a giant spiral staircase that spirals around the curve of the dome.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like there's this little, it's a very skinny staircase. So there's the ceiling, like the dome ceiling that you see from the inside of the church. And then there's like the roof that you see from the outside. And between those two things is a staircase.
So this is sounding very similar to the Duomo that you described.
It's very similar. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did them like days apart. So that was really funny because I just got real used to like, this is what climbing a dome is like. And it is so cool. And then at the top, you get out on this little tiny observation deck and look over the Vatican and the city of Rome.
Oh, cool.
And you get to see like what the Pope sees if he's like giving his little hello there.
The Pope climbs up that?
No. I mean, I think he probably goes to like the whatever spot that the Pope is at when it's like
the window out from his chambers or whatever.
I guess so. But like, because I was there just a couple weeks before Easter, and so that whole like courtyard area that's in front of the basilica was full of chairs, and so that was cool. Being like, this is where like this is a very cool place that I'm at right now. And so, but just even the shape of like that space that's in front of the basilica is really beautiful. And then the city of Rome is full of domes. There's just a lot of rooftops that are domes. And so it's a really pretty city to look out on. And so, and then you get your steps in for the day too. So,
Excellent.
So, yeah. So
nice.
Go there. Do it. Also, Ryan, you were asking me before we started recording if that's the same as where the Sistine Chapel is. And it's the same general location, but I'm talking about that dome right now. So
okay.
We'll talk about the Sistine Chapel on another Wish You Were Here.
Gotta save it for later.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Ryan?
So I'm going to do near where Laura was talking about, well, relatively near. And we're going to go down to Australia.
Nice.
So we've got two Southern Hemisphere Wish You Were Here's this time. So, and I am going to recommend the Three Sisters, which are in the Blue Mountains.
Ooh.
And I'm actually going to be even more specific. So the Three Sisters is sort of a rock formation in sort of on the side of this kind of canyon area, right at the kind of in the Blue Mountain region, which I don't know, it's like maybe an hour or two outside of Sydney. I don't remember. We took a bus out there. It wasn't super long, but the thing that's extra cool, well, there's a lot of things. You can take this tram, I guess it's more like a gondola, like a cable cart sort of thing, and kind of go down to the base. You can hike down the base if you want to. And then there's also a scenic railway. However, this is, at least as of when I was there in 2012, and I'm guessing it's probably still the case, it was the steepest railway in the world. It is at a 52-degree incline. It is the highest cable car in Australia and the biggest as far as how many people it can hold cable car in Australia.
That's awesome.
And so, and it's not like it doesn't go like, it's just literally just at an angle the whole time. I opted not to take it down because it looked like a roller coaster and just the drop part of a roller coaster, which is not what I was interested in. But you can, so I took the cable car down and then I rode back up on this, which means you go backwards, which is interesting because you're always facing forward and you just are going up backwards. And it has, so you're in these little car, like kind of seat things, and it's the whole kind of train car. It doesn't look like a train, but it's at an angle the whole time because it's on this incline the whole time. And then it has like this metal cage like up above you so that you don't reach up and out of the car while you're in there, because you go through like little mini caves that are just barely big enough for this rail car to pass through.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. It's super cool. My favorite thing is we get into it and everybody's there and they give the little spiel about how you have to like make sure that you're careful and don't reach out and stuff. And yes, of course, the view is cool, but then they start playing music. And at least when I went, they played the theme from Indiana Jones.
Awesome.
And so it starts to go da 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 da, and you're like moving up and you're looking out and you can see all this stuff and stuff's rushing past you. Then all of a sudden you're in a cave and everything goes pitch black and then you come back out the other side. It was very, very cool.
Oh my gosh. That's quite the epic journey. That's very cool.
Yep. I mean, it's like, I don't know, the whole ride is probably like a minute or two long, so it's not super long, but it was really, really fun.
That's so cool.
That sounds epic.
Well, Laura, thank you for being on our podcast. We loved having you and hearing about your trip.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We hope that you'll come back on and share about more adventures in the future.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you would like to plug?
Plug? I'm like, I don't really have necessarily a big social media page presence or anything, but, you know.
How about as a physical therapist, what's the number one thing we should do to stop screwing up our bodies?
Oh, that's a hard one. The number one thing. So, motion is lotion. That's my model. That's the big motto. It's motion is lotion. It's like my everyday thing.
Move a lot. Is that what you're? Is that what that means?
Yep. Movement is medicine. Yep. So it's like Americans often live very sedentary lives, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't mean you have to run a marathon. It doesn't. You know, go for a little walk, or break up the sitting throughout the day. You know, be fidgety. Or find the type of exercise that works for you. So, yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Cool. Very cool.
So that's going to bring this part of our podcast to a close. So we would love it if you would follow us on social media. We are at TMWY Podcast. That's Take Me With You Podcast on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Hopefully Laura will be able to share some pictures from her trip from Burma with us. We'll be able to post some of those so that you can check those out. So yeah, definitely want to follow us on social media.
You can also email us at timwepodcast@gmail.com. Send us the story of the time when you sang a Christmas carol in a foreign country. We want to hear about it, or, you know, any other things that you would like to share.
I mean, if you wanted to sing us a Christmas carol while you're in a foreign country, you could do that too, and you could leave that as a voicemail for us, right? You could do that by calling us at 406-763-8699, or if it's easier to remember, 406-POD Timwe. Please also go ahead and rate and review our podcast so that it can help other people be aware of what you think about our podcast. You can subscribe to the podcast to make sure that you don't miss any of the episodes when they come out. And we would love it if you would share about this episode on social media so that other people can be sure that they hear the cool story about Burma from Laura.
As always, thank you to Beth Reed Miller for our awesome artwork. You can check out more of her artwork at Beth Is Something. And thank you to Erica Corbin for the use of her song Round the Globe. You can listen to Erica's music wherever music is sold or streamed.
All right, that's going to do it for this week. Laura, thank you so much for coming on our podcast and sharing about Burma with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so until next time, remember to take me with you.
Take me with you.
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above, and a little love. Oh, the world is out there waiting to explore, and all our troubles here wanting to be